through Continuum's expense management functionality. So let's get started. Users can access the expense module by clicking in the tree view. Depending on your permission settings, this will display various options. Today we will be focusing on managing our own expenses, other people's expenses, and expense approvals. So I'm going to start by clicking into the expense summary grid. You will notice that I'm presented with three different views: draft expenses, submitted expenses, and received expenses. Under the Actions section, I have icons that allow me to quickly copy, pin, or delete expense entries. In addition, on the top right-hand corner, I have quick access buttons to allow me to submit expenses, save expenses or expense reports, revert a change made back to its original state, or easily export to either Excel or PDF. I'd also like to point out the tooltip options on the column headers. By hovering over the columns, I'm presented with tooltips that allow me as a user to quickly be provided with instruction as to what type of information is required in that particular section. I can also easily filter in multiple ways by selecting the filter option and the appropriate filter that I would like to select. In my draft view, I can create an expense report, or see my rejected expenses. Let's walk through a sample expense. I will click on the plus sign and be presented with various expense types options: transportation, telecommunication, etc. In this example, I'm just going to select phone, and I will be presented with a project listing that I can select from. By selecting the appropriate project, I will also be presented with a task list that I can choose from as well. So I can either choose to select a task to specify, or I can just move on to the next box. So you will notice that I am already presented with the account details, which are matching the corresponding project Pro Continuum implementation. I can select an expense date, quantity and amount, and the currency will automatically be defaulted based on the account or project currency settings. I can also change the currency if I need to select a different one. I can select tax rate, but one will also be defaulted for me as well if that's how the account has been set up. So we're going to leave it at no tax. And I will be presented with the reimbursable total, which is the amount that I had put in this section here. I can then also enter in a comment as well. So let's put phone client expense. And I can also upload a receipt if I so choose to. So once I finish entering in all of my account information, I'm ready to create my expense report. So I'm going to go ahead and save. And I can simply check off the expenses that I want to include. For this example, I will just select one expense and click Submit. You will notice that the expense status is in a draft status, but that's going to change once I've submitted my expense. So I'm going to get presented with a expense report screen, and that's going to provide me with the opportunity to be able to see how many line items I've included in my expense report, the overall reimbursable total information, and have again an opportunity to either change the currency, add a comment, or upload a receipt. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Submit. I'll be provided with an expense number. I'm going to say OK. And you will notice that the system automatically brings me to the submitted view. And in this view, I can see all submitted and approved expenses. I can also mark my expenses as received by simply clicking on the Receive icon. My received expenses will then move to my received summary and remain eligible for viewing and exporting as needed. At times, you may need to submit expenses for a different resource. In Continuum, this is very simple to do. You simply select the other expenses within the menu, choose the resource that you need to submit an expense or expense report for, and you will see in this view that I'm logging the expense for Tony. So you can enter the expense the same way that I just demonstrated, and it will be recorded as an expense for that particular resource. In summary, with the appropriate access, if the user is unable to enter their expenses and you're waiting to perhaps do invoicing, you can eliminate the delay by creating and submitting the expense on their behalf. The last section that I want to cover is the expense approvals. If I'm an expense approver, I will receive a notification that I have expenses to approve in the notification section. In this view, I can see that I have expenses to approve for two resources, Beth and Tony. I can expand the entries to view the expense details if I choose, or simply just decide to approve or reject the submissions. I can approve or reject at either the line item level, or I can do an overall approval or reject. Once I have approved or rejected the expenses, the resource will receive a notification. So this takes us to the end of the expense management demo for Continuum. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.